Next up is Gretchen Hansen from Minnesota Department of Natural Resources.
Hi. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming. So I know you're all here because you love Coregonids, and a lot of you are here because you love to hear about the Great Lakes. I'm not going to talk to you about either one of those things, but hopefully you'll stick around anyway. So I'm going to talk about climate change and clarity trends in inland lakes, the thousands of lakes that are smaller than this one that we have in this part of the world, and some of the implications of that for fish and habitat. So those of us who work on fish and fisheries ecology and fish ecology in general, we know that temperature is something of an ecological master factor, meaning it controls or influences pretty much everything we might care about when it comes to lakes or fish and the processes that affect them. So understanding what's going on with trends in fish populations or communities often requires some understanding of what's going on with temperature. Unfortunately, there is not a vast resource of long-term temperature observations for lakes in the same way that there are for streams or for, say, air temperature. And there are a number of approaches one could use to deal with that lack of observation data in lakes. And one that I've taken with some of my colleagues is to build a simulation model to predict lake temperatures based on a thermodynamic model that takes into account meteorological conditions like solar radiation, wind speed and direction, things like that, as well as lake-specific characteristics such as lake size, depth, water clarity, and tree canopy cover. And I'm not going to get into the details of the model here, but I'd be really happy to talk about it afterwards. So we take local downscale meteorological data combined with lake data to simulate water temperatures, and we can simulate daily lake temperature profiles for all the lakes that we included. So recently we've developed this model for about 11,000 lakes in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan. Yeah, okay, so the picture on the left there, if you watch, you'll see some of the lakes are going to change color to show kind of the zoomed in scale of the ability to look at individual lakes on individual days in terms of their water temperature and ice on and stuff like that, of what's happening in this model. I tend to take the more landscape zoomed out view, which is most of what I'll show you, but you can watch the lakes change color while I talk. So we have daily water temperatures, entire water column profiles for 11,000 lakes. And we did this for what I'll refer to as the contemporary period, so 1980 to 2015, based on observed weather conditions, as well as did some projections into the future, mid and late 21st century. I'm not really going to talk about those today. We haven't really delved into those projections for the most part with this three-state model, but just want to mention that they exist. And generally, the model performed pretty well when we could validate it with the observed lake temperature data that we do have. So we can do the best at predicting surface temperatures and the best at predicting surface temperatures in the summer. So our root mean square error for summer surface temperatures is just under a degree C, which is really pretty good for models like these, especially for 11,000 lakes combined. We don't do quite as well for whole lake temperatures and particularly bottom temperatures. Our overall error rate was just under 3 degrees, which again is pretty good in the context of these kinds of simulation models and also compared to other kind of statistical approaches. But we had the highest error in predicting bottom water temperatures with an error rate of about 3 degrees. And that's something we're working on improving, which I'll get to in a little bit. And in addition to the daily profiles that we can predict, we also generated a number of derived annual thermometrics, which are potentially more usable for most people. If you think of daily water column temperatures for 11,000 lakes for 30, 40, 100 years, that's a big data load for most of us to handle. So we also generated things like growing degree days, stratification, onset, or duration, variability in water temperatures around certain events, things related to ice off and ice on, and stuff like that. And so all the profiles for each lake, as well as these derived thermometrics, are all really available to anybody who wants to look at them or use them. So we're kind of just wrapping up the actual temperature modeling for these 11,000 lakes and really delving into the infant stages of trying to understand, okay, well, what do we see in terms of patterns of lake temperatures, and then ultimately what does that mean for things we care about, like fish habitat or other things. So what you're looking at here is, again, just for the contemporary period, so the past 36 years or so, what is the trend in summer surface temperatures, and the scale is on degrees C per decade for the 11,000 lakes that we model. So probably two important things to point out. Number one, all the lakes that we modeled did get warmer over that contemporary period. That's probably not too surprising for most of us. What was surprising was the variability in the rate at which they warmed, and particularly seeing some of these spatial patterns that show up just visually looking at the results. Does this work? Does anybody know? Yes. No. So we see like really quite a bit faster warming in lakes up in this arrowhead part of northeastern Minnesota, as well as like the northern lower peninsula of Michigan and part of the UP as well. So lakes that are pretty close to some of the Great Lakes seem to be just visually warming faster than other lakes, and trying to understand, is that real and what does that mean? Why is this happening is part of what we're doing. So I want to make a plug that a part of that process is we're diving back in to collect all the observational data that we can to validate these trends and reparameterize models to calibrate to individual lakes, just to confirm, is this a modeled artifact or is this a real thing? So just put it out there. If anybody's sitting on some treasure trove of long-term lake temperature data that they'd like to share, please come talk to me and I will give you my big ticket. Okay, so one of the things we know that influences the response of lakes to climate, and can explain in some ways these heterogeneous responses we're seeing, is water clarity. So we know that water clarity influences water temperature, in that in clear lakes, the energy from the sun can penetrate deeper into the water column and warm the whole lake at a greater rate than, say, more stained or darker or more turbid lakes, where the energy from the sun is absorbed in the top layer more quickly and can't reach those bottom waters. So in darker, more stained or turbid or algal-dominated lakes, surface waters tend to warm faster, but bottom waters tend to remain cooler. We also know that clarity is changing in lakes in this region. So this figure is from a paper led by Noah Lottie a couple years ago, where they looked at several thousand lakes, inland lakes around the Great Lakes region, and saw a number of trends in water clarity, but in kind of all magnitudes and all directions. So some lakes getting a lot clearer, some lakes getting a little bit clearer, some lakes getting less clear by a little bit or a lot. So big range of trends, but the point being there are trends. So these concurrent trends in clarity could influence trends in temperature. So to try to understand a bit more about those interactions, we did some scenario simulations with the lake temperature model that we built to look at, okay, if you take the observed changes in the climate drivers that we've observed, again, that contemporary period of 1980 to 2015, and you apply on top of that a directional trend in clarity, what does that do to the lake's response, to the lake's warming rate? And we can, so that's what I'm going to show you. And we just built like relatively simple clarity scenarios of, let's say, all the lakes are going to get clearer, and the rate that we made them get clearer was the average rate that they found in the Lottie paper of just under 1% per year. And then we said, and then we'll do the opposite of, let's make all the lakes get less clear at that same rate. Or, and then our kind of reference condition is, let's not make clarity change at all. So that's what the different colors are going to represent in this papers. So if we look at surface waters, we see, again, the white one in the middle is the baseline of, given the observed changes in climate, we saw all lakes get warmer, and there was a range, the box plots represent the range of individual lake responses and how fast they got warmer. So that's the white. In the blue, you see if you make the lakes at the same time get clearer, that can actually somewhat offset that warming rate. So lakes that got clearer didn't warm as fast, and then the opposite was true. If lakes got less clear, they warmed faster in the surface waters. The opposite was true for bottom waters. So if we had the lakes get clearer, the bottom waters would warm faster, in a lot of cases more than twice as fast. And then conversely, lakes that got less clear warmed at a slower rate, and in some cases didn't warm at all or got cooler. So changes, decreasing clarity can in some cases totally offset the influence of climate change on bottom waters. And then whole lake temperatures were pretty similar to bottom water trends. Just got my little signal. So I'm going to show you a picture of Cisco so that we all, get excited. So what does this mean for Cisco lakes? So we know there are several hundred lakes in this region that support Cisco populations. And we also know from work that has been done and is ongoing by Pete Jacobson and John Lyons and a number of other people who are in this room, that Cisco populations in some lakes are declining, and in a lot of cases, not a lot, in some cases have been extirpated from these inland lakes. So work that we're interested in pursuing now is taking some of these model, it's a weird thing, taking some of these model temperature data and looking at well, what does this mean for Cisco populations, both understanding what has happened in the past and maybe doing some projections in the future, similar to some of the work we've done for cool water and warm water fish. So this is just a little teaser. We haven't actually done any analysis here, but we're highlighting the Cisco lakes in the 2 states where we have all the data compiled, thanks to Pete and John. And you can see there's a range of, and this is looking at bottom temperature change in the summer of these lakes. You can see the blue are lakes that got clearer, the red are lakes that got warmer. There's kind of a big spread. And if you look at that rate of change in terms of do Cisco exist there, have they been extirpated, or were they never there, there appears to be a really big range of temperature trends in all 3 of those categories. That is probably worth pursuing, but I haven't yet, and that's the topic of future work. So, just to wrap up, that's what we hope to do going forward is link statistically some of these changes in temperature as well as other lake characteristics to actual fish responses. We're also working to do a new version of the temperature model that incorporates all the best observed data, both in terms of trends in water quality and observed temperature data to calibrate to specific lakes, particularly for high priority lakes where we have a lot of data to try to get those model temperatures even more accurate. And then again, we have these future projections of lake temperatures that we can start looking at future projections of fish thermal habitat and fish populations if we sort of have. So I will thank my colleagues and co-authors and take questions in maybe a minute or two. Yeah, the question is how deep are these lakes? So this is 11,000 lakes. They're all depths. I mean, these range from lakes that don't stratify at all.
My question is, what is the minimum depth you need to see that kind of features? I assume they are very shallow. You won't see them.
Right. So not all the lakes stratify, and then yeah, we don't see the difference in the surface and the bottom waters. Is that what you're asking? I don't have a number of the depth of all the lakes. We could look it up with the paper and like the range of depths that we modeled. It ranges from I think 1 meter to 300 meters of deep.
On the figure where you had the projected change in lake temperature, where it's like right near the Canadian border, so how would that look if you overlaid projected temperature change?
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this isn't projected change. This is change, I mean it's modeled, but it's change in the contemporary period. So this isn't going
So
forward.
how would that look with just air temperature?
Yeah, air temperature does not look like this.
Okay.
So that's what we're trying to figure out is what could be driving it. We have hypotheses about changes in cloud cover leading to differences in solar radiation, but we're digging into it.
Well, if future other questions, catch Gretchen at the break. We're going to try to stay on time.